I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about asbestos and other EPA fines. Now, I've been a real estate investor and a general contractor for 15 years. I flipped over 300 houses and I own over 150 rental units. And EPA is one of the scariest things to me. It's because they have unclear rules and humongous fines. So in this video, I'm going to go over the dangers, both physically and financially, and we're going to hit the top 5 EPA fines and issues. And I just want to start by saying that I'm not minimizing the physical harm here. I'm just not a doctor, and I don't want to talk about that stuff in that much depth. I want to give you an overview, but I mean, I've seen videos out there and seen stories about like the true harms to people's families that asbestos specifically causes. And it's serious stuff. It's very sad. Okay. But I'm here to talk about the business and how it affects your real estate operation. Okay. Let's start with the big boy, asbestos. And this is one that a lot of you guys are going to run into because houses that were built in like the 1950s all the way to the 80s, they used a lot of asbestos products because asbestos is pretty sweet. You know, it's like indestructible. And it's waterproof, been around for thousands of years. It's like a natural product. All right, so it seemed like a great thing, but everything that makes it great also makes it harmful. The fact that it's indestructible gets in your lungs, and well, your body can't break it down, so it just kind of lives there, is the way that I understand it. Once again, not a doctor. And can't smell it. You know, you don't know it's there. It's so small. It can be really dangerous stuff. When I first bought a house, somebody made me aware that the siding and the floors inside of this house were made with asbestos. And I was like, oh crap, that sounds really terrifying. So I started looking stuff up and I find out that this dude in Seattle, 30 days in jail and a $50,000 fine because he disposed of it properly. You can imagine that I was terrified. You probably are too. That's probably why you're watching this video, because you hear about things like that. Okay, well, I'm sure that this guy was an idiot. He was probably doing things, they were probably like watching out for him. And depending on where you live, people will look at it differently. All right, but the stakes are high. So we need to deal with this stuff appropriately. Okay, but even in Colorado, so I was in Denver, that's where this story happened, which is like one of the EPA capitals of the world. You know, like some places are going to care a lot. Other places, like when I moved down in the South, they don't really care that much. But Denver cared a lot. The EPA was out around there. But even they have rules on how you deal with it appropriately. Just because asbestos is in the house doesn't mean that it's dangerous. Okay, I think of it like cigarettes. All right, if you have a pack of cigarettes that's sitting on the table right there, ain't gonna give you cancer, guys. Okay, but if you start smoking it, it's gonna potentially lead to cancer. Probably in the case of cigarettes, a pack of cigarettes isn't gonna kill you either. It's smoking them over the long term. Now, similarly with asbestos, is if it's just sitting there like a pack of cigs on the table, that's not going to harm you. Okay, it's when it gets broken and the particles get into the air and can get in people's lungs. That's when it gets dangerous. More dangerous if it's exposure over time. That's why a lot of the people who have gotten physically ill or died because of this are construction workers who were putting that stuff into houses, cutting the siding up, cutting the floors up, and you know, putting in insulation. So like some of the blown in insulation from certain time periods that had asbestos in it. Like I said, floors, the adhesives under the floors, siding, that's a really big one. And you know, like coverings for HVAC vents, those have asbestos. Some of the insulation for electrical wires. All right, but those are your big ones. All right, but these guys were working with it all day, cutting it open. It was getting into the air. That's when it's dangerous. Now, even in Denver, the way that you would deal with it legally, okay, is that this house, siding, asbestos, what you would do is you'd put plywood over the top of it. You would cover it up. Okay, floors, cover them up with new floors. All right. And then, the siding, you would put Tyvek over the top of that and just put your new siding right on top of it. So you might cut into a wall and you might find that there's a sandwich of a bunch of different sidings. That's probably why, because to dispose of that stuff properly costs a lot of money, and disposing of it improperly costs even more. So this is a story about a dude in Denver, not me directly. He got caught doing stupid stuff, and he was a stupid guy, too much of a cowboy, and wasn't stupid, but he was kind of wild, gonna do things his own way, which I appreciate. Just got to think about the consequences here. Got caught by the EPA, and they made him tint the whole frickin' property. Okay, put a tent over the land, the house, everything. Bring in equipment. Obviously, this tent had to have like the ventilators and all that kind of stuff on it. Had to bring in the excavators and such and take out the first 4 to 6 inches of earth, because he was tearing up the siding. It was all getting into the ground and all this kind of stuff. And they made him dig out 4 to 6 inches of the earth, remove of it properly, and then had to put in new earth and whatever. Hugely expensive. Not only was the work expensive, he also had to pay the fines, which can be in the tens of thousands, if not more, money. Okay, so that's terrifying. And once you get caught up here in the EPA and all that kind of stuff, you got to hire one of the abatement companies. Guys, they are in business to make ridiculous money off of this stuff. All right. For instance, taking 6 inches of dirt off of the ground, that's expensive. Way more expensive when it's a remediation company that has to do that work. They get an automatic fear tax put on these things. Okay, so you might be asking, is there a way that I could DIY this? Gonna be careful here in what I say, because I am not saying that you should do this, but I'm saying if you are to do this, you better be careful for your health and for your finances, all right? Because the health stuff is obvious, all right? And the financial part, just see that earlier story. Tens of thousands of dollars of fines if you do this like an idiot. This is the way that I understand it. And this is different in every municipality. And you need to check for yourself, your own state, your own city. But generally, they care a lot more about how you dispose of it than how you demo it. Like where it goes, what landfill it goes to, and how it gets there. Because they probably care less about if you're killing yourself versus if you're killing everybody else. All right. And the basic way that you want to get rid of it, now knowing that it's the airborne stuff that is the physical harm to you, you use a lot of water. So you use water, if you're taking the siding off, you're misting it with water as you pull it off, trying not to break it, because breaking it is going to shoot that stuff up in the air. So you're trying to take it off one at a time. This is why it's really expensive, because it's a slow process. Taking it off one at a time. You got the water, so that way if any of it does get in the air, the water's bringing it down. And then you have to put it in 6 mil construction bags. I've even heard that you double bag it and put 2 bars of red tape across the top. And then you put it in a special dumpster, which is an enclosed dumpster. That way the stuff can't be getting in the air. And that way when you transport it to a specific landfill, all right, there are specific places where you're supposed to take this. Now, I can guarantee you that people don't follow these rules all the time, but I'm telling you, those rules exist. You're not supposed to take this just to your normal landfill. And I know people don't follow these rules because one time I have one of those dump trailers or whatever, and I would, instead of ordering dumpsters for some projects, not talking about asbestos here, just in general, I would, take this dump trailer to a landfill, you dump it. And anyway, this big truck had gone there right before me, and I get out of my truck to, do the lever lift thing, and I'm literally standing in syringes. Like, when you go to the hospital and they have like the little syringe bucket thing, with the hazard sign on it, and that's where they put the used syringes. I'm sure that there's a special landfill for those freaking things to go to. But in this case, that truck dropped them all right there. I was standing in it. Reminded me of that scene from like Saw 3 where the guy gets put into the whole like container of syringes. Anyway, I know that some people don't follow those rules. That's how I know people don't follow those rules. However, you should follow those rules. Otherwise, you are potentially going to get these fines. And, you don't want that. That's going to hurt your business. I don't care how good of a deal you have on a project. If you get these huge fines, it will wreck it. Next thing you're probably asking is, how do you know if it's asbestos? Do you just like look at it and compare pictures on the internet? No, there's actual testing kits that you use. So you take like a swab of the stuff and you can send it to these different centers. And, you can buy these asbestos kits and they'll tell you whether it's asbestos or not, and then you treat it accordingly. All right. So recap on asbestos. It's dangerous crap if you deal with it wrong. But just like a pack of cigarettes sitting on your table, it's not dangerous till you start smoking them. So if you got to smoke them, do it correctly. Now, there are other EPA issues that also have test kits, and they also have their own rules, starting with lead paint. You all have heard of that one. Every house you buy or sell, you got to sign all the disclosures saying that you won't eat the stuff or whatever. Now, similarly with lead paint to asbestos, it's not a problem if it's sitting on your walls or if it's sitting on the siding. It becomes a problem when you start messing with it. You start trying to scrape the paint or whatever because it's bubbling up, and then it gets into the ground. That's when it becomes an issue. And I mean, a pretty big issue. So I'm here in Chattanooga, and in the neighborhood that my office is in, there was a big lead paint issue. So big that the city is actually coming around and they have contracted out some company to do this on every property, where they take out like 4 to 6 inches of the earth and they put in new earth. Pretty sweet deal, actually, because I own a lot of rentals around here, and they send you a letter and they give you a call saying that they need to do this job. And if they mess up like landscaping or if they mess up sidewalks, they like rebuild it all. It actually made my properties nicer, and I dig it. Okay, but that's lead paint. Same rules. Next is a radon. All right. This is a big one depending on where you live. So in Colorado, this was a really big thing. Here in the South, I actually haven't dealt with it at all. Haven't seen a single house with a radon pump on it. And that's what they do, is they put a pump on it. So you've probably seen this thing on the outside of the house, on the outside of a house, where it's like the white PVC comes up and then it goes to this like circular disc thing that looks, it always reminded me of like if you have a travel trailer and you have one of those satellites, like the white thing that goes around it. And then PVC continues up over the top of the roof. And what that white satellite looking thing is, hopefully that's hitting people's imagery in their head, but it's a fan. All right, so it's sucking radon up and out above the roof where you can't be harmed. And where does it get its radon? Basically what you do is radon comes out from the earth. So in your crawl space, you seal it up with like the plastic, just like a crawl space encapsulation. But underneath that, you have all kinds of piping that then when the radon comes up, it hits the plastic, so it can't, go up into your house, goes into those pipes, gets sucked out by the fan up above your house. Now, this is like, I think every single house that I sold back in Colorado, I had to put one of these in. I almost like started to pre-do it because I just knew it was going to come up on inspection resolution. Not going to get into inspection resolution strategy right now. Maybe for another video, you'll like that one. I have a specific way I deal with these things. But next is VOCs. Another EPA issue. This is volatile organic compounds. Had to look that one up. But basically, this is like building material that you would use. The one that always comes to mind for me, because I got high as hell using this stuff, accidentally, not on purpose, guys, is it was like a cement, contact cement. Okay, I was building a countertop. This was back in my DIY days. So the way you build like a Formica countertop, which you can make it look way cooler than the stuff you buy off the shelf. And at that time I was about making things look cool. And you take a couple pieces of particle board, you like glue them together, and then you take this contact cement and you put the Formica on top, and you can build it into whatever shape you want. Problem was, I was doing this for a basement unit, and it was the winter time, so I had all the windows closed so I could heat it up in there while I was working. And well, before I knew it, my brain wasn't working very well. And then I tried to talk, and words wouldn't come out. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm super high from all this contact cement. Those are VOCs, and you want to make sure that you protect yourself and your crew from these kind of things. That is a little side note here. You personally may choose that you want to DIY some of this stuff. And there are ways that you do it properly, and you really need to look up the ways that you do it properly so you protect yourself. Okay, but you putting yourself in harm's way, and I'm like one of the first people that would do that. I was definitely a lot more of a cowboy before I had kids when it came to those kind of things. But don't put your crew in this crap, okay? You make sure that your crew is protected. People that you hire are protected, all right? You don't want to expose them to these kind of things. Carbon monoxide is another one. I remember like back in the DIY days, had a crew, and we were doing we were cutting out a concrete wall in a crawl space, but it was like a basement type of crawl space so I could stand up. And anyway, we had one of those like concrete saws, and well, it was making a lot of fumes. Didn't realize at the time that those were carbon monoxide fumes. But anyway, it started to get so much that I like sent my crew home, or at least outside, and said, I'll just do this one myself. And, because I'm not going to be a sissy. And anyways, before long, I was like, oh, my head's like really, really swimming. And so I thought, okay, I'll just go outside, get some fresh air. Didn't realize that carbon monoxide actually attaches to the blood cells. So it's not like going out to get some fresh air all of a sudden makes it go away. It actually sticks onto them. And so I just, basically whatever. I was at a 6 out of 10 right there. Fresh air didn't take me down to a 4. I just stayed at the 6, went back down, started cutting some more, and it got really bad. And I guess this story is about how carbon monoxide really is dangerous. I always thought like, oh, how can you not get out the window if you get like carbon monoxide? Guys, I'm telling you that it took everything I had to get up those stairs after I got poisoned by this carbon monoxide. I mean, like 2 hands trying to lift my leg up to the next step. Terrifying experience. Now I see how people can get harmed. So be cautious about carbon monoxide. I don't know if carbon monoxide fits the VOC for the EPA issues. Definitely an OSHA issue. But the point here was, don't put your crew in jeopardy. If you want to be a cowboy, whatever, okay? But I don't think you should be. I think you should take the proper precautions. You should definitely never put your crew in jeopardy. Finally, speaking of which, is mold. All right? Mold is a big one. And mold is nothing like the pack of cigarette analogy. If you just leave it there, it will spread inside your walls and it will become a problem. And everybody is freaked out about mold. So I guarantee you it's going to cause issues, potentially legal issues, if you have rentals. So you got to deal with that crap, and you have to deal with it quickly. Okay, all of these things have tests, and mold is a specific one where I was selling this house and came up on an inspection resolution. And these people had already had the mold abatement people go out there to give a bid for like $15,000 to $20,000, if I remember correctly. And I was like, oh, that sucks, because it was already a really thin deal early in my career. Didn't know how to make actual profits on houses. So this $15,000 to $20,000 mold remediation would have taken all my profits plus some. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. But I'm already like, in the system because, everybody knows there's mold down there now. I can't just go like do it myself, right? So I start calling around to different mold remediation companies, all of them, 15 to 20 grand. And that's the lesson first, is that remediation means markup, okay? Because when I looked at these guys' quotes, it was like, remove the insulation, scrub the walls with mold killer, and then put in new insulation. And I mean, we're talking about like a wall in a basement. It was an unfinished basement, had some, some water got in there, some like atmospheric water. Brain's not working right now, whatever. It wasn't like a water leak. Okay, and it was just moist down there. Mold started to grow in the wood itself and on that insulation. Classic, happens all the time, right? But I mean, the quote, once again, remove insulation, scrub walls with mold killer, put in new insulation, 15 to 20 grand on like a couple of walls. Now, I mean, we're talking like probably 40, maybe 80 linear feet. Okay. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, mold killer I can buy for like less than $100, and the insulation will cost me like nothing. It's going to be like less than $1,000 to do all of this by myself. And that's when I found out that I can actually do it myself. Now, remember, there are the disposal rules, and you need to follow that. Okay, but the problem is the testing. This person isn't going to buy the house that has mold in it just because some dude said that, no, it's fine, I did it. But with the tests, okay, I was able to use the test kit that showed me I had no mold in there. And then I actually hired one of the companies to come in and give me that test, to where they came in and tested it. An actual remediation company did the test, and they confirmed that it had no mold. I was able to use that letter, sell the house. Hooray. Okay, but I tested it myself first because I didn't want to pay one of these guys to do the test, and then I failed. But anyway, so saved me lots of money. It ended up costing me like $1,500 total with the work that I did plus getting this letter from these guys. And this leads me to probably the most important point here, that remediation companies are going to be expensive, and there's lots of ways that you can deal with things yourself, and that is basically the cornerstone, the foundation of everything that I believe about business, maybe life in general, and definitely the real estate business. That you got to learn how to do these things. Not that you got to DIY stuff, but you got to understand how things work, because the people who don't understand how the things work get absolutely taken advantage of. You're just little fishies in a water filled with sharks, and they're coming to eat you guys. All right, so you got to learn these things. You got to empower yourself. By the way, I have a free For Now school community. This is the kind of stuff that we talk about. There's a link in the description. You should check that out. I'd love to have you if you're like-minded. Okay, but further yet, okay, the issues here that are so scary are also some of the things, all you guys are going to be pissed about this, maybe, not all of you guys, but is also how you get great deals on houses. I know, you're not going to like that, but just think about it. Okay, the same house. Let's take the one that I sold, that had the $15,000 to $20,000 quote, ended up getting it done for like $1,500. Okay, the market price to do that mold remediation was 15 to 20 grand. I'm not making anything up here. Okay, the fact that I can do it for $1,500, well, that doesn't make me a bad guy, right? So if you just take like a normal house deal, let's say that there's a house that is valued, its after repair value is going to be $300,000. And just using the 70% rule, I've done lots of content about how the 70% flipper rule isn't perfect. There's other ways to do it better, but let's just do that for easy talking math here. House is going to sell for $300,000. 70% of that is $210,000. And then, the way the 70% rule works is you take 70% minus the rehab cost. So let's just say that the rehab cost was going to be $30,000. So now instead of $210,000, I should acquire that house for $180,000. But I find mold. Okay, so what am I going to do when I'm coming up with my acquisition price? Am I going to say, oh, well, that mold's going to cost me $1,500. So instead of the $180,000 that I can spend on this house, I can only spend beep, 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 180 or 178,500 on this house. No, I'm going to take off the 20 grand because that's the market price, guys. And I, as an investor, and you as an investor, you should get paid for the skills that you have and the risk that you're willing to take. And you're taking a risk. What if that mold does go deeper? What if there are more issues than meets the eye here? You're taking the risk and you should get paid for the risk. That's what we get to do as investors. You're not doing anything sneaky here. That is the market price. That's what the seller, would have to pay if they wanted to go get the mold remediated. Just because you have a different way to do it doesn't mean that you should be penalized. All right. That's what this is all about, guys. I do a lot of content about how you can be a better, more profitable real estate investor. I do a lot of content about how to get better deals just like this. And you should watch some of my other videos. This one in particular is about how you start and operate a one-man real estate empire. So check it out. I'll talk to you soon.